Good evening from Vietnam. Good afternoon to you, Theo. Thanks a lot for joining our program to share your stories to our global audience. And on behalf of the listeners everywhere in the world, we want to say thank you to you.
Thank you for inviting me. It is a pleasure to share. It is a pleasure to talk with you. And it's a pleasure to create out of time beauty and interesting things and knowledge and experiences.
Mm. And earlier in this conversation, you shared that you grew up in Greece, right? Studied in the US, now teaching, in different continents. Now staying in Armenia for year 8 already, and now you speaking, you sharing your words to Asia also. See, the world is very beautifully connecting, and I think it's connecting for a reason. I want to publicly say thank you to you for being so nice, so kind. First, to accept my invitation to connect. Second, to join me on a International Women Day where you share your wisdom, you share your insights about women leadership and share the voice from where you are, and also join into this conversation so that people will know more about your decades of works, of teaching, of researching on the topic of trust, and that will be wonderful for us to know more about that journey. I'm grateful for this opportunity, Phil.
Glad to be here. Glad to be here. Glad to share things. I was born in Greece from Greek parents. And my father was a self-made, very successful and big businessman in Greece. We were living back then in Thessaloniki. It's the second largest city in Greece, about 1 million people, with a history that goes back to the Byzantine Empire and way, 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 way back to Alexander the Great. Same city there. And they were in business. So we had the lunch every day. And because my mother was in the business also, we would sit all for lunch every day. So I'd hear them talk about business, right? Because they had, did you see what happened there? You know, what do we do? Sometimes they'll ask me something, light just to keep me. So that's how I was exposed to the business, concept and to the concept of freedom. Business is freedom. So it's individuality. It's not, it has a lot of obligation. It has a lot of risk. It requires bravery. It requires devotion. The rest of your life becomes smaller when you have your own business. But it has that freedom also, that independence, and that special reward that all of this I see, primarily I did it. It wasn't given to me partially. So I got exposed a lot to that. And then when time came to go to the university, to be honest, I wanted to go to psychology. But there was no psychology university in Greece back then. It was too early to have psychology degree. So I went to the next second favorite was business. And so I got my bachelor degree in Greece. And then I decided to go to United States to get my master's and get more synced. My bachelor degree was a macroeconomics, business, but microeconomics, really. So then I went to the university at Delphi University in New York and had my master's there. And there I flirted. I had an excellent professor that was a psychologist and spoke about consumer behavior and consumer psychology. And I was very attracted to that. So I majored in marketing in the MBA, and I had several courses in marketing. I had that professor a couple of times. And then I said, but I had this clear feeling that I was behind. I was like in a theater play, playing. When you play in a theater, right? You see the show, you say, what a beautiful acting, what an interesting idea, what pressures. But you don't know what happens beside the screens. Why did they get that? How did they get that? That's what a bachelor degree and a master's degree is. You learn how things work. You don't know why they work that way. What makes them work that way? Why we have 4 Ps? Why we advertise that way? So I said, to learn that, I need to get a PhD. There's no way I'll learn that. I guess I get behind the scenes where they make science, not where we read science, because I was reading science. I wasn't making sense. And that's why I ended up going to Virginia Tech. I was gladly excited. It was an excellent program. We had very top people back then. We were four, actually. They would accept four people every year, 3 Americans and 1 foreigner. Every year, the foreigner, by the way, was Indian, because India has, because they speak English. They have large numbers of people. So probability-wise, I mean, it was natural. I broke that chain that year. I came with one Greek. The 2 people that followed me were Indian also. We were great friends. We had a great time. And after completing my doctorate there, I went to San Diego State University, where I taught marketing there, which was my discipline. And eventually, I had to make a decision of a lifetime, because I'd either stay in the United States forever. I mean, I was already there 9 years. I had 3 years I was teaching at San Diego State University. I had a choice, and my choice was to return home, because it felt I felt more human at home than it was in the United States. There professionally I was very good, but human relationships, there's that. So I went back home, and then I had my legs, one in business consulting and business, and the other one in teaching and education. This lasted for several years. We had finally, the economic crisis in Greece. We introduced things in Greece, concepts of marketing, concepts of research. We did research on not only for companies, but election prediction research, which is actually, as you know, the only research that you can verify if it's true or not. Only election research you can see if indeed they did a good job or not. Because everything else, you get the data, you say, that's reality. Was it good? Yeah, you can't check it. It's not easy to check. We were the first in the whole of Greece in terms of accuracy, and the only one that predicted the actual outcome. And all this was very good and very developing. And then the crisis hit, and things stopped. For me, marketing, let's talk a little bit about marketing. Marketing is a very critical societal function. Nobody thinks of it that way. Everybody thinks marketeers are hired guns of companies. And quite often they choose to be hired guns of companies, the marketeers. I have to tell you, when someone asks me what's your profession, I say marketing, I get 2 types of reactions. One is, whoa, that's fun, that's exciting, you do advertising, you do this, you do that. And the others are, you are the ones that make us buy things we don't need. And that's true. I mean, that's true. There's a lot of, advertising and marketing strategy that based on that. Lack of trust, to be in fact, not building trust. But of course, there are a lot of people that don't do that, right? Because let's not forget that usually countries that are prosperous economically and maybe even with broader social rules have active marketing companies, functions, services, this, that. And the general thing that marketing doesn't help you, and we spend money, the product would be cheaper if we didn't advertise, is not true. That's why in the most developed countries, marketing works besides the impression that it creates larger costs. So it is beneficial. I started telling you, though, why it's very significant in a society of a country, in a development country. Because marketing has, I'll tell you what, a country has some resources, right? Mm-hmm. It's people, has know-how, it has money, it has land, it has sea, several resources. And we all as a country, your country, my country, everybody's country, is looking to optimize this to the best life. Optimize the resources of a life means to know how many pizzerias you're going to make, how many hospitals, how many airline weapons, and how many T-shirts. This is a very complex process to decide how you do all that. What has happened to optimize, to an extent, of course, these resources, therefore have a high quality of life? We have capitalism, and we have primarily the free market. The free market says we balance it. If there are too many pizzerias, they're going to go broke. If there are fewer hospitals, prices will come, pressure will come, we build more. As long as we have free market. Because people, the moment they see an opportunity there, they will run and fill the gap. Two pizzerias are waiting in lines to buy. I see that, I open a new pizzeria next. So I balance this balance. That's good, and that's what economics says. But we have to think at what cost this comes. Because when that pizzeria starts to large, what happens usually, you get 50 pizzerias, and the country needs only 20. So because everybody sees money in pizzeria, they keep going. And at a certain point, they realize this is not going to work because the other guy was making money there. No? So this is what the economists say, the point of balance of demand and supply. But that point of balance comes with blood and tears and huge costs of companies realizing after the fact that they are bankrupt. Realizing through experience and it's like saying, I'll join the battle and I hope I'll win. That's what they say. So a large percent of this investment and all those people end up being bankrupt. So to find this balance point is very expensive and very bloody. And very expensive when I mean holds back the economy. Okay? It's better than not having a free market, but that's the thing. Now, marketing comes exactly into this point. It's the doctor that comes and tells you how should I go? I see here there are 3 pizzerias and people are waiting in line. Should I do it? And marketing tells you whether you should do it or not and how to do it. Because marketing has a process of, first of all, identifying needs. Looking at this, do you need a 4th pizzeria place? Do you want the same pizza or do you want a different pizza? Do you think this is expensive because they have 10 people waiting in line? Do you think a smaller price would be more fair? So it does this packaging for you. So it tells you the probability of being a success and with what recipe. Okay? So that's what marketing does. And then in your company, you execute that. You have your management department, you have a resources department, you have the accounting department, and there is an execution. So in that sense, marketing comes and performs that balance, how to use our resources. Every decision we make now, before making a distribution of resources, like US had a big thing in the past 10 years, on whether they should bring oil out of the land, right? Out of the rocks in the north, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, there are benefits and losses there. I mean, but how do you do it? There was a calculation before moving that way. Okay, there is a calculation. So all of a sudden, you drive with a map. You drive your boat with a map, not with a feeling of I see where the weather is and I'll turn that way. Okay, so that's the role of marketing, and in that sense, is the most socially sensitive science that because it tried to optimize the benefits for everyone by optimizing the resources that exist. It's the mechanism of distributing, giving you the medicine in life that you need. Okay?
Wow.
Yeah. I'll say about things like they say advertising increases costs and all that. I'm doing I hope I'm doing almost a marketing lecture right now, but it's my marketing soul that speaks.
And the conversation today is for people to see that soul, right? Because a lot of us are doing things that we're not loving. There are a lot of us are working that we didn't like the job we are doing. So I hope that one day they be able to wake up and say, okay, I love this profession. I love this work. I love this job, and I'm gonna pursue that. You know, like the way that you share, I can see that for 4 years in marketing, and that fire is still inside of you. Bill, I enjoy it. And let's travel time. I told you in this conversation we're gonna travel time together a lot. Okay, so how does time travel sound to you?
Uh, you mean literally or metaphorically?
Yeah, I mean like metaphorically, and then we're gonna travel time together with me. I'll lead the way. Okay.
Right.
Uh, so if you travel to Vietnam, I'll take you somewhere in my city. All right, but I'm not born and raised from the city where I'm at the moment. So I came back to Vietnam 13 years ago and living in the southern of Vietnam. I was born in a very small city called Da Nang City in the middle of the country. And we had wars in Vietnam. So the middle is the war zone, right? And so our city got ruined a lot because of the bomb, because of the fires everywhere there. And I grew up in a very poor community, in a very poor city, in a very poor family also. And one night we had electricity, and then the next night maybe we didn't have electricity. I couldn't see things outside of my house, right? And I wanted to become an astronaut, so flying to the moon, and I can see things very bright, right? But life has taken me to a very different path. And during the past 4.5 years, I've been interviewing a lot of astronauts. One of the people actually walked on the moon. His name is Charlie Duke, and then he's the youngest astronaut out of the 12 people ever walked on the moon. We were so happy to have him on our show. So for you, when you were little, earlier you said that you wanted to become study psychology, but then psychology wasn't there at the university back then, right? So you had to go to the business world. So I want to travel time with you to see when you were little. What was your thinking about the future work that Theo is going to do or to become?
I I tell you crazy stuff. I was born in Greece. Now Greece has this option of sea as Vietnam does, of course, but not every country has it. We have a luxury that we can drive the car for half an hour, 20 minutes, even in the city you stay, and be at a natural beach and be quiet and this and that. So I grew up on my vacation, and later when I was getting older, more independent, exposed to that, and that allowed me to sit in the sand for hours and look at the sky and be quiet and dream on things. So yes, I had a thing for the stars. I thought that I would, when I started thinking of going to United States eventually, young, I mean, because I had relatives in United States that were coming every summer, we would meet with them, all these things would happen. I said that I will go to United States. I would have like a military jet that would fly me 2 hours from there to Greece. And yes, and I thinking, but they might shoot me down. I'm a child now, right? They might shoot me down because because I went to the military because it would be fast. That's why. And only, two-seaters kind of thing. And I said I'll paint it pink because no army would ever have a pink. Anyway, I was sure I would get it, but I didn't. I have to inform you that I didn't. I do have a motorcycle now these days. So I'm more of a person that I develop organically. I don't set hard goals and go for them. Every step I take, every move I make has an opening in front of me. All right? There is an opening because anytime you take a step, you can go this way or that way or that way. So that's a decision and a purpose created like every moment, let's say, life. I'm exaggerating every moment, but I think you get my drift, right? That as you make steps, you make decisions. And I'm more, although if you ask me to talk about strategic marketing and strategy, corporate strategy, I look very long term. On decisions that are application oriented, and I work short term. I see in front of me what exists and take the step in that direction. So I didn't have a very clear objective. I had steps I kept taking that led me to, from my passion to psychology, I became a marketing track person and actually consumer behavior. My doctorate is consumer behavior. My minor was in statistics. So I'm a specialist in consumer behavior. And from that, I went, to teach and do research and do consulting and develop my consumer behavior knowledge, which led me to the thing that I'm very active today. And I think this is something that I didn't plan, but again, I followed my instincts, my opening, trust. Because the one thing that is very, very, very critical in a society, and all wealth and all smiles come from that, it's by the level of trust a society has, or a group has, or a couple has. You want to say something?
Yes, I understand that you take very precautionary decision, what ahead, and then you think about that and you make the move, right? I want to bring you to the moment that you decided to not only sit in front of the theater and watching, the performance. Okay, so that is where the bachelor is, the master degree, teaching people, teaching us, right? You say, okay, I want to go around, go into the back of the stage, see how things happening, how people organize it, or, how they make the performance for that theater tonight, right? And that's led you to study your PhD, all right? And well, when you study for PhD, there's a lot of resource, of time, of of devoting, of commitment, and everything like that. So I want to bring you to that moment. Why you have to go that that deep and go all the way to different angles of that theater of life and starting to see things, why it is, how it's connecting. What make you do that?
I am a person that wants to know, wants to understand, not simply know, wants to understand. One of my idols in high school was Da Vinci. And Da Vinci, the famous Da Vinci. And I admired, and I would like to be one day like Da Vinci, of course, is because he was not a scientist, he was a multi-scientist. He wasn't a philosopher, he was a general philosopher. So he was a painter, he was an engineer, he was a doctor. He viewed the world globally. He wasn't specializing on one thing, and outside my road there is chaos. I don't know. He blended everything. So that's the step that took me that. So I have a curiosity to understand. Because whenever you see how everything blends, you have to understand. To make the real decisions, you have to understand, not to know recipes. A good doctor that knows all the recipes in the world and all the protocols is not a good doctor, because all patients have a certain difference from the protocol. All patients have a certain difference. They have to identify, but to know this, you must know what's behind the scenes, how the engine in your car runs in every little piece of it. It's a different driving you will do once you understand, and a different relationship you have with the car once you understand how each little part works. I don't know that. That's why I have a good case with. I actually have a motorcycle now. Again, more so, it's easier in the city, but that's what I'm trying to say. It's like not only driving your car, understanding how it breathes. So that led me to get to the doctorate, and that opened immediately my mind, because all of a sudden there weren't people out there that knew things I didn't know, but not only that, I couldn't understand how they know it, how it comes. It was like, the specialists that they come from the gods and they say, I know, that's it, I know, this is the recipe and it works. I'm glad it works, but I don't know why and how. once you get the doctorate, you learn science in general, regardless of where your doctorate is. So you start to understand processes, and you understand in general what's behind the scene, in general, in the whole world, in other disciplines as well. So that was my thing. I mean, I always wanted to be, I told you, Da Vinci, and Da Vinci means behind the scenes, understanding, everything, electricity and everything. Electricity this time was not available, but feeling easy to walk in the all paths of life. Not an expert, but someone that understands and understands how each relates to the other.
Beautiful. And that curiosity of wanting to understand, does that come in from, like somebody in the family, like the genetic, or is something that on the way of you growing up, you gradually, have that curiosity?
I'll tell you, I have a sister. My sister is not like me. He has a different approach. She doesn't have my curiosity, my level, no ways. I mean, she's intense, she does things, she's around his life. My father he knew a lot of things. He was like, if he was educated, but also he would read stuff. He would learn. He would be up to date. As he got aged, he followed the eras. Had another habit, though. The moment he met me, and in general everybody, but me especially as his son, two children, daughter and a son, would make sure he could dominate me with words, with thinking. He was smarter. He was this, he was that. And if I made the slightest mistake, you would shoot at it immediately, say, well, you said that wrong. That is a mistake. He would point it immediately, rarely saying, if ever, bravo, that was a good thought, that was an extra move. So I think that trained me a lot in terms of thinking, because he thought very straight and well. So that developed my thinking, and maybe in Charles, but I do. So that, let's say, armed me with the motivation to prove my father wrong, that I can be smarter than him, and also the tools to engage relatively easily at the university or the school in general. I could deal with things easier. Just to give you an idea that about what I say, I mean, I like to learn. I was a good student, not a super good student. I wasn't a student that would get a scholarship at the university then. I eventually got, but I'm talking about high school now. And in high school, I remember distinctly that I would take, for example, an exam. I was more interested in understanding what is happening than getting a grade. I was more interested in understanding what happened to the exam than getting a grade. And I learned a lot by failing in exams, getting a bad grade. And I did not. When I ended up high school and I met the people that were like first, second, went to Harvard, and went to such places. And we met, they didn't remember stuff from school, not stuff that had to do with knowledge, stuff to do with understanding, stuff because they were getting good grades, that was their criterion, where my criterion was just to learn. When I went to the master's degree, I was way ahead of everybody, from all master's students. And because I was learning, I was not getting the degree, I was not for the grade, I was for the learning. Learning for me means understanding, not knowing. Understanding the breathing of someone, not knowing that someone breathes. Yeah. So that's what happened. And that's why I ended up there. And that's what motivated. I think also my purpose on this planet is transitory, not only mine, I think everybody's. And I think the purpose of me on this planet is to become better, to be more balanced, to know more, to be better, a better species, a better human being. Not only better in terms of others, better in existence.
Yeah.
And last thing I'll tell you about this better, just to get across, last thing. I remember in high school last year, I was talking to a friend, And I said, you know, I was talking about, we all had all these philosophy theories, we have groups, we talk about philosophy. And he said, I said, you know, for example, say my left and my right hand are different. They don't have the same power. So this is not balanced. So I need to bring my left hand to the level of my right hand, because then I'm balanced, then I have educated enough to that. Which may sound silly now then, but it shows my priority in developing a balance in soul, in everything.
Wow.
I'm thinking of these things now and I'm impressed. I mean, I'm thinking what I was thinking. But yeah.
So, was there anyone role model for you in the way of thinking at high school, and then you started to thinking about growing is the way through understanding and through balancing things in life instead of winning better grades or stuff like that? Who's role model you?
I will not say role model, but there were people that showed me a different way and showed me how to think.
Wow.
And we had a musician who was teaching music in our high school, but he taught me so many things. He would come, he would have a big class, and he would talk to kids. He was a big-minded, a big soul. So he would talk to kids, and then we put us sing something or something for music, because we were at music as mandatory. No one wanted to be musicians or anything. And he said so many ways. And he says, do you know how many people like the Beatles? Do you know how many people like the Beatles? Because they play good music, because you said, No, he says. The most important reason, because why, he said, not they like the Beatles, he said, why the Beatles are so important in society. And everybody says, because they get good music, they do this, they do that. No, he said, because they made millions of people pick up the guitar.
Pick up the guitars.
They motivated millions of people to pick up the guitar and play music, to become musicians, to understand music, to be in love with music, guitar, drums, anything. He says that's why he's important, not because he gave you 1 hour pleasant afternoon because you listen to their music. He's important because he changed the structure of society. I still remember that. I was 12 when he said that.
Wow. Well, Theo, at 12 years old, kids used to, very playful, right? Enjoy hanging out with friends, and you're in the beautiful country, beautiful city, beaches everywhere, right? So no, and then what made you be into the world full of questions, full of thinking like that? It's beautiful, and I want to know because it make you really separated from the rest of the children out there.
I don't know. I think it's the way I am. For me, for example, it's not important to have a lot of money. I have enough money. The moment I get enough money to feel comfortable, I'm okay. So that's not a priority for me. I'm very supportive to my friends, very loyal, very this, that, but I'm not going to spend my whole life with them. I'm not going to do that. I feel that I'm here to become better. I see our path through this life is either as a training camp or a school, but a transition stage to something else, bigger, and I don't know it's bigger, but to something else. We're here all transit. We all come and go. And not only we come and go, we are built in such a way that you can't stay still. You can't be like a stone motionless. So this environment tells you move, 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 move. Move means learning, because any move you make in 1 minute, you learn something, not new, but you learn how your body feels that moment. You learn how the ground touches. You learn. It's mini. We don't consider them knowledge, but every move we make, we learn something. Our body. There is an experience. Every experience is a learning. So, and it's not only, it's also transformation. Every moment we're a little bit different. One cell here died, one was born here. I mean, there is a constant change. This world we live in is based on metamorphosis, on change, on moving. So it is a mobility thing. And a mobility thing, the way I see it, I mean, I'm swimming in a sea that, I know it's moving all the time. The more I know, I need to know, because I'm going to get out of here and I better know stuff. I'm not here for not knowing stuff. When I get out where I go, most probably I'll need what I learned here. You know what I'm saying? It's
Yeah.
why are we going through here?
And then for the 30 something years in the field of teaching, consulting, and around marketing, it's all about trust that you want to, help people to realize the importance of trust. So why is that, Theo?
Because it shocked me what's happening. It shocked me. I'll tell you, many years ago, I'll tell you my father, a story of my father. He was to buy and sell, to buy real estate in Greece. He found the real estate. The sellers came at the lawyer, the law system where it would be registered. They said, oh, he gave them the money. They were supposed to bring some documents. They looked at it. They forgot one document. They couldn't find it. Very respectful people. He knew them. They said, well, we have to cancel this, make a new meeting and all that. He says, we can go and bring it tomorrow. He says, to give you the money back. He said, no, you don't need to give him the money. I trust you. I trust you. You don't need to give me the money. Think about it. The whole real estate price, several million. Take it. You don't need to give me back. I trust you. You tell me you're going to bring the documents tomorrow. I trust you. We'll meet here tomorrow for the documents. Mystery. This is a mystery now, or psychological mystery, right? They were there tomorrow. What an easy life. How when the 9/11 happened, right? The 9/11? The terrorism bombing of United States, basically, with the White House and the Empire State Building and all that.
Yes.
When that happened, the world changed, because I'll tell you one number. Only at security only at the American airports, because they went to this, they put people more, they went to this electronic testing, and everything became difficult. Hours you're there are much more. They weren't like that. You would go half an hour, get on the plane, go. Security, nothing. Only the United States costs $7 billion a year. Every year, $7 billion a year expenses. Only that. That reduction of trust. Only that. Only United States, not the other countries, and only on aeroplanes. Tell me. This 7 billion only from the airplanes in the United States. If there wasn't a trust issue, of this magnitude, there are always trust issues and there are always trust. But trust reduces. Because of the terrorist attack, and that's the purpose of terrorism. It's not technically to kill an enemy, no. To reduce trust. That's terrorism. The objective of terrorism is to reduce trust. Reduces trust, everything becomes less functional, less competitive, more poor. So imagine what you do with United States with 7 billion if you didn't give them for security in the airplanes because of this terrorist attack. How many hospitals, how many students educated, how many poor people, how many whatever. And I'm telling you just one number of the numbers that were affected by the 9/11. So when you make, and I'm going back a little bit to my father's, you say, why did he say that now? That was stupid. Why did he say that? I'll tell you why I said it. Because That has two effects. To the effect that he judges well and he make that move well, it has the effect that he trusts himself, right? He trusts himself. He trusts his choices. He's not afraid that people will steal him. The second thing is that there is a vibe and a culture between people, right? I mean, that woman, when they left there, this couple that left, there was a husband and a wife. This couple, when they left there, whatever their behavior must have been changed a little bit, more in trustful ways, more on being open to others, more on being helping others without looking at their cost. Because they trust when the other says, I have a problem, that it's not a trick to get your money, it's because they have a problem. So trust means that, to say what trust really means, because it's a social word, it's an emotional word, but trust is, it's a leap of faith, and it is that I believe you will do something that I need or is beneficial for me in any way, protective, in any way it is, without me asking it, or primarily without me supervising it.
Yeah.
So when we are at war, let's take war, which is an extreme situation, requires a lot of trust. When we're soldiers together, right? And I tell you, I'll go on that way, I'll go up there, and you go on that way and come up there. And when you see me raise your hand, you shoot that way, so it allows me to come back and, succeed, whatever. This could be a soccer game. This could be at home, cooking. It could be anything. But it's simple. That's why I'm putting in that context. Now I'm taking a risk. I could die if you don't do what we said. You could die if I do what we said, right? It's a huge risk. Blindly followed. I trust my life on you. I trust my money on you. And when trust is there, everything becomes cheaper. Your day is more sunny. Because even at very simple indications, like you walk in the street, in the United States, and to a large extent in Greece, when you walked in the street back then, several years ago, back then, not I mean back, there is a trend right now, people could see you say hi. I mean, when I was at the university, almost everyone you met, you'd say hi. Half of them would say hi, just hi. Or in the streets, just hi. That started to deteriorate now, society, right? I don't know what happens in Vietnam, but here when people see someone in the street, they're more probably closed. I hope he doesn't talk to me. I hope he doesn't do something to me. I hope it's not like, it's unthinkable to be in a train station. This was yesterday's news. There's someone in London, 2 people in London got in a train and killed, 4 or 5 people. I saw a video of a woman harassed by a man, and there were 10 men in there. Nobody intervened. They let her, being harassed and pushed and don't move, and I said so, and they didn't move. In Greece, I was at the kiosk, and the kiosk owner was out, and the taxi stops, and the woman asks her money to pay. She pays the money. She was an old woman, very old. And as she walks out, he doesn't give her the change. He gave her a lot, and he doesn't give her the change. And she said, my change. And she started telling the man, the guy next to me started running behind him in the street to catch him, to help the lady that he took her money. And the others are in there today. So there is these acts of trust give confidence to people, make them feel warmer. They create a bond. They improve the bond. They improve the net. This society, all the human beings, the advantage over the other species is cooperation. Cooperation sits on trust. There's no cooperation. There is fear force, but cooperation there isn't without trust. So to put little nudges of trust every day in your life, you will get better vibe, you will put more sunshine, you put positive assets in the society. Even this move that my father seems insane and not logical, and only psychological, it
Mm,
puts a stamp on how we live here. We live trusting each other. Big.
yeah. I think there's a lot of bad news on the media these days that scares us away from the core of our humanist beings, right? I think, of course, we want to trust people. And of course, I know that, like if I trust Theo, then I give you 200% of my love, my care, my support instead of 50%, right? And a lot of us right now going into the day carry the umbrella, wearing and worrying that rain will happen. It's things, and that's not living. That's not living. So how can we take a baby steps, like to gain confidence so that we can trust people and build credential for other people to trust us also. Yeah.
The truth is that trusting others relies to a large extent to self-trust. Because when I self-trust, I trust who I can trust also, in a way. So self-trust is the first step. I'm confident, so I can trust. Uh, there is a there is self-trust doesn't come by winning the championship 3 times, 3 years in a row. You have then trust in yourself, confidence in the right word, because you won the championship 3 years in a row. But you lose the championship for a year, and trust may go out the window. And you lose it maybe for the next 3 years, and it may go seriously out the window. Trust in thyself. Trust is not a matter of achievement. Self-trust. Self-trust is a matter of understanding me. Understanding what I really want, why I make that mistake, why I take a good grade, why I take a bad grade, why I don't cook my food and why I buy food. Understanding my little and my big things and my big decisions. Understanding meaning not being honest with myself, because we are always trying to be honest with ourselves, but we don't actually manage it. So we have these stories to cover our choices. Usually they come from the outside, but then get internalized. So the idea is to understand yourself. The more you understand yourself, you choose better paths. You shouldn't go through the bumpy road because you drive a Ferrari and it's going to break in the bumpy road. Although you say, I have a Ferrari, I can go anywhere I want. What are you talking about? I'm the best. You're not the best. You have a Ferrari. Good luck with the Ferrari. And it's going to drive on a perfect road. If it's not perfect, get off it or find another car. Okay? So that's the idea. The more you understand yourself, the moment you understand yourself, then you understand that, nobody's perfect. You lose some, you win some, and you dare to take the first step. I'll tell you one thing that some people say, they have to prove to me to trust them. There is a standard mentality. We stop somewhere again.
Yeah, you say that you win some and you lose some. I think
We're back.
yeah, that's yes. My internet is very stable. I'm having that test while we're talking.
It's stable.
So,
Maybe it's mine. I don't know. I'm at the university. It's the central university connection,
no worries.
land connection.
I'll remove that part out. No worry.
Yeah.
And let's continue on when you say that you trust your instinct, trust yourself, and you lose some, you win some, and stuff like that. So
Yeah,
I want to
trusting.
hear.
Yes. No, so trusting yourself means, in reality, means you start to really, really trust. You're really in a substantive way. It's not like I'm winning the championship and I'm singing better than someone. But when you understand yourself, that allows you to trust yourself because you see what you will do and it usually comes right because that's what it is. Once you're at the art stage, then you have to make a decision. Do I trust everybody and then whatever happens? Everybody is an exaggeration. I start on the basis of trust, or at the start on the basis of suspicion of carefulness, I'll put it. Because there are many people that say, and they say, to trust somebody, you have to live with them, you have to see them. Trust is earned. Trust is earned. Trust is earned indeed, but with what method? The one method says, I don't approach you, I don't tell you anything of my personal things, I don't trust you financially, until you see 10 times you didn't cheat me, this we didn't do, slowly I build up. I think this is an old approach from an old era, the pre-engineering and pre-mass production era, where resources were low, so the one farmer could only lose from the farmer next door. They had to share one field. Today, we're lucky in that way that we can. Today, why are we talking to each other? Why am I not saying this on my own, on the camera, and publish it, and why don't you say it on your own, publish it? Because it's better when it's two. It's better even more when it's three. You think of something I don't. You can do something I cannot. I can do something you didn't think of, something else. Today is the age of cooperation, the way of trust. All startups would never go anywhere with I don't trust until you prove it to me. They would wait years to make the first step. So my philosophy is I trust until proven guilty. I follow the law that said innocent until proven guilty. That means I blindly trust. Doesn't mean I give you my keys to my safe. I don't do that. But I start on the presumption that your intentions are well, and your intentions are to help me. You're positive about me. You're not negative. Now, you might have abilities, I might be wrong, but I start on that premise. And then that means, as my father told me, he says, if you don't trust people, these people that were so critical, he said, if you don't trust people, all doors are closed.
All doors are closed. Wow.
You trust people, doors are open. Now, in one door you may find this, in another you may find the other, but doors are open.
Beautiful. I have a couple last questions for this conversations, okay? And my wife and I, we always fascinated with helping people to improve their ability to think, all right? And we believe that our thinking this day has so many noises out there that impacting our thinking, then the thinking is declining. So in order for us to transform, to accelerate, to grow, we have to take our control of our thinking and have to think well again. And you mentioned a little bit about thinking earlier into this conversation, and I want to put it under a question. So Phil, how have you been growing your ability to think over the years?
How have I been growing? I missed that.
Yes. How have you been growing your ability to think?
That's a good question. I'm not that conscious or I did the method. I'm very conscious that I want to find the truth, and I'm very conscious of the Socratic thinking approach, that the answer starts from the right question. The answer, the information, the knowledge is not in what you get, it's in what you ask. Right? Everything out there, you know a million things. I know a million things. Your library carries a million things. Even your plant next to you has a different story to say every day, maybe. Okay, there is a lot of stimuli, information, anything you want to call it out there. It's not what I get, it's what I ask that will get me the answers. So the healthy curiosity, the healthy insistence to go to the end. Here also, when there is a news independent set research, Harvard research, this, I don't stop there. I know what they could go wrong in that research, for example. I couldn't go what could be. And then I take a second step to see if it's really valid. I have this thing of if it's really that understanding, as I said, and that comes from the question. If you ask the question at that moment, because I was going, this is amazing to me. I had a legal problem with the client, and we went to my lawyer and said, let's sue him. He said, okay. I said, so, yes, we can sue him. He said, da, 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 da. I said, okay, if we lose the court, can he sue us back and get in problems for me if we lose the court? He said, no one ever asked me that. You are the first person. He was old ones. He's the first person I ever asked me that. And he answered me. For me, it was unthinkable. How could not you ask first? You open the guns on someone. The law says he's innocent. You fail to shoot him down. Shouldn't you think that he may raise his gun? Then you try to shoot me, man. My turn. I'll come and shoot you now. Nobody thought of it. Nobody asked the question. That's what I'm telling you. I didn't know anything about it. I didn't think of a smart law or smart trick. I asked the question, what happens if? My safety, because knowing that answer, my safety level and my understanding of the situation and the interaction was in more depth and better understanding. Therefore, I could make a better decision.
Wow, beautiful. Last question. And thank you for reminding about the importance of asking the right kind of questions. So you get us to get into the more depth of the information, the situation that we have in front of us, right? So the last question, let's travel to when you laid out on that beach, right? And had the dream of flying from the US to Greece in the military jet, painted in pink, so that it's not gonna get shot down, right? and Theo now with me, we are going to lay next to that young Theo, okay? Then you tell him you are him just years later, and you're gonna tell him about how your life's gonna be, any words of advice that you're gonna give to him. So what is that you're gonna give to that young Theo?
A hug. And I think we're still in the beach, I'll tell you. I think we're... And I would give him a hug and I would tell him that, young Theo, I think we're still in that beach.
And what would he say?
I love you.
Yeah, it's a beautiful conversation, and I will always remember, few things in this conversation that I really enjoy, and I thank you for that. One is the getting to know deeper. So not just look at the theater as it is, trying to see, behind it, how things are made. It's important. A lot of us are taking information on good faith, and that's it, like as the face value, the surface of it, not going deeper to know why. And because of that lack of curiosity, maybe they're not being able to see things in their, different perspective. The second is very important about trust, that your father was saying, like, if you don't trust, no doors open, right? And we live in the world, and everything we do is the choice that we make. We want to have opportunity, we have to open doors. If we don't open doors, don't wait for opportunities, right? So, and the third one is here always about the pink military jet. I will forever remember that. I tell my children tonight. Thank you so much for being so kind to spend your time in the afternoon to join in our program and share your stories. And the world is small, and let's have a commercial jet to get us to meet, not military jet in pink. And I hope that travel to Asia, to Vietnam. I'd love to see you have a cup of coffee together. and we definitely will go to Greece. And if we go there, and by the time if you travel back there, I'll let you know in advance. So maybe we can have a cup of tea together, a cup of coffee
I
in
gladly do so. I gladly do so.
okay.
Thank you for your warm invitation on that warm day, Women's Day, and remind me also of the role of women in my life and our life in society. And was very glad to have this discussion today with you. I felt so homey and so warm and so constructive and open and learning.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a beautiful day. Say hello to your loved ones, and I'll meet you next time. Okay.
Looking forward. Take care. Thanks.
Bye, dear. Bye, bye, sir.